The clients have expectations. When they spend thousands of dollars for our advocacy and advice, they have expectations, whether we like it or not, on how we appear. And we need to be as professional as possible for them to meet their expectations. That's what they expect of us. Well, hello and welcome to the Jay Sterling Hughes Show, where we share how we have built our family law firm from 0 to 25 attorneys and 15 million revenue, all in the past 10 years. And my purpose here is to document what's working and what's not working, with hopes that you can take that, you can recontextualize it, and shorten your success curve. My name is Jeff Hughes, and I'm your host. In today's show, we're going to explore how to tell your associate to dress more professionally. And for us, it was early COVID. We were about June or so of 2020, and we were back in court, quote unquote, doing our hearings, all via remote, all via Zoom at that time. And we had another opposing counsel reach out to one of the managing partners in our firm, and he said, "Hey, I wanted to let you know that so-and-so showed up for her court hearing dressed in a hoodie, and the judge said something to her, like, you gotta be professional, you gotta show up." And that certainly damaged our firm's reputation and made this attorney, I'm sure, feel foolish. I'm not quite sure why she did that in that particular case, but that's one example of many others that I have seen over the years where, frankly, there are quite a few associates who don't have either desire to dress as professionally as they should, or to meet expectations, or they just frankly don't have the training, don't even know that that's required. That's not been something that's been a part of their upbringing in their life, and they're just really ignorant to it. That's a sensitive issue. And so this whole topic of telling someone how they should dress, someone that works for you even, that you have some authority over, there is a delicate issue. But it's one that can be constructively approached in the right way. So in our firm, to set context, in our firm, my policy is simply that anytime we are engaging with a client, we need to be in professional attire. Okay, that doesn't always mean tie, of course. It can mean jacket. It could mean, if you're meeting one-on-one with the client after they've become your client, it can mean just wearing a nice collared shirt if you're a male. And for females, it's the similar type attire. But once you're out of the sight of the client, the standards in my mind are far less. They're basically societal standards at that point. If you are not meeting with a client, you show up in shorts and a tank top, probably not what I would do, but if you're not meeting with a client, I'm okay with that in the work setting. That's what I do. That's my policy and how I approach this thing. But I also recognize that there is a big challenge here if you're an older male and you're telling a younger female associate what she should or should not wear. And that's really touchy and really something that you got to be very careful in navigating around. So I'm fortunate in that we have female managing partners. So on several occasions, I have gone to them and I would say, "Hey, can you tell so-and-so, this is what I saw. Can you work with them on how to dress more professionally and more appropriately?" Now, if you don't have that luxury of a female managing partner, someone in authority, someone that's leading, and you're a male and you've got a younger female associate working with you, you've got to be really careful and delicate working around that. And so I have some thoughts around that. I never had to do it, but I have some thoughts around doing that as I'll share as we go through this. I want to recognize some of those challenges right up front. Okay, so best practices I have found. Start obviously with a private one-to-one meeting. Don't do this in public. Don't do this with other people around. This is a sensitive situation. Acknowledge that right off the bat. Hey, this is awkward, but let me just share with you some things here. So I like to begin with just addressing the sensitivity of this, just calling that out. Look, this is really sensitive and I need to be really thoughtful as I talk to you about this. Discussing this topic can feel very personal, and I want to have the utmost respect and empathy for where you're at. So please understand that if I'm doing this kind of wrong, just please share that with me, because I want to get better as I go about doing that. So, and I like to kind of humanize my own approach to this, and I tell the story frequently that when I was a young associate, I looked really young, and I could barely grow facial hair, okay? And I had a client ask me early in my practice, like in the first year, like, "How old are you?" And that alerted me to the fact, wait a second, I'm probably losing clients because they think I'm too young. And so I made a decision right at that point that I was going to do everything I could to look and act older than I was. Okay, I think I was like 24 when I got out of law school. So I was 24 or 25 when this happened. And from that point on, I wore fake glasses because I thought glasses made me look more studious or something, I don't know, but it made me look older. I always wore a suit and a tie, buttoned up all the way to the top, cinched up. I didn't let it hang loose. And I, of course, grew a goatee because I wanted that facial hair to make me look older. I didn't like paint it white or anything, but what I have now, as you can see, but I want to do everything I could to look older and look professional. And so I always tell that story when I'm having this conversation with an associate, because I want them to know, hey, I've struggled with this. I've struggled with looking professional. I've struggled with youth. That's the reality of our world, that there's people draw conclusions with your appearance, and you want to do everything you can to gain an advantage there and not somehow put yourself at a disadvantage. Secondly is I call them up in a positive way. And I'll say stuff like, look, I know that you care about your clients and that you're always looking to improve your client service. And I know that you're working hard to build your lawyering skills. You want to get better. You want to do a better job. And I know that that's who you are. And when you're doing this, be careful to avoid like what I call a negative feedback sandwich. Don't give them like a positive and then a negative criticism, like you dress like a bum or like a slob or unprofessionally, and then give them another compliment. Don't do that. But calling them up and letting them know how you see them and letting them know that you see them as somebody who's wanting to perform at a high level. And then the next thing I do is I want to frame the conversation around external expectations. And I'll say, look, the clients have expectations. When they spend thousands of dollars for our advocacy and advice, they have expectations, whether we like it or not, on how we appear. And we need to be as professional as possible for them to meet their expectations. That's what they expect of us. We need to live up to that, even if maybe they don't dress as professionally. Okay, many of them have expectations. You can't look into everyone's mind and know what their expectations are. You have to meet those at the highest level. Frankly, judges have expectations. You know, that's a little easier because attorneys know this generally, like except the one in our case with COVID. But judges have expectations. The firm has expectations as to how you're dressing. And I'd love to see you, so-and-so associate, meet and exceed those expectations with how you dress, your professional appearance. And also need to understand, along with that, is that others are impacted with how you dress. If you dress unprofessionally and you fail to meet expectations and you build a perception of sloppiness, that falls on everyone in our firm. If you're known as the attorney from Sterling Lawyers who's sloppy, there's the expectation that other attorneys from Sterling Lawyers are going to be sloppy. And that's just not the image that we're trying to live up to. And it does affect other people, your teammates, your colleagues, or even your clients. If you don't act professionally and you don't dress professionally, that shows up. And that shows up with how other lawyers treat you, and that shows up in your negotiations that you might have with them for and on behalf of your clients. It also impacts how your own teammates view you. If they see you dressing sloppy and unprofessionally, that impacts them and their opinion of you in some way. Maybe it's subtle. Maybe they don't like talk about it openly, but it's there, okay? And also, along with that, it's certainly okay to acknowledge, in my estimation, that older people in my age group, they can get away a little bit more with maybe not wearing a tie and a jacket, okay? Because we've got the gray hair or the no hair or whatever to go along with that. And so we just got that maturity. And so there's a little bit of more leeway that's allowed, a little margin for error that's allowed by the clients. Okay, not the judges, but the clients. But younger people, they have a more difficult job of earning that respect. And they don't want to put themselves at a disadvantage by dressing like a bum. Okay, they need to dress professionally and dress up to those expectations. And also, I think it's important that we try to understand, is there something that we can do to support them? What can you do, right? Like, what's going on? Maybe they haven't had training. Maybe they just simply don't know. They're just ignorant to that. They haven't been trained that way. Having the understanding, the empathy to go alongside them and support them in that way is really helpful. Maybe it's a financial issue. They just don't have the resources to go buy attire that's professional. That does happen, right? And so you can help with that. You can help solve that problem for them and with them. All right. And maybe it's just your modeling. Maybe it's going to require like actual getting out pictures as to what's professional and what's not. I know like in our handbook, we actually have some of that in there. We have guides with actual pictures to show professionalism and what's not professional, especially in the setting at home when you're on video, doing hearings and so forth on video. One thing, we don't allow beds in the background. We don't allow kids running around in the background. That's a no-go if you're going to work remotely, for example. But there are YouTube videos out there that talk to this, and you can certainly demonstrate that and point them to those YouTube videos. And remember, finally, at the end of the day, you are the leader. You need to model this first. If you're not modeling this, then you don't have the moral authority to go to them and say, hey, you need to dress professionally if you're not willing to do that. If you're not wearing socks and you're going to court, for example, if you're a dude wearing loafers or whatever, I've seen that. It just roll my eyes when I see these guys show up, barely pulled everything together and just beat the bare minimum standards to have a jacket on and a tie on to meet what the judge is asking for. I just roll my eyes at that. I can't believe that, but it happens. But if you're going to ask for professionalism from your team, you need to be consistent first before you ask for that. You got to own it on your end by communicating clearly on the front end what's expected. And even if you did, communicate that clearly when you meet with them and then model it at that same exact time. You've got to do that first. You as a leader, you don't have that sort of privilege to not do that. You got to be the one to live up to that. And also give them the benefit of the doubt around this, okay? I have found that the majority of the time, the young associates are just not being flippant. They frankly don't know. They frankly just don't understand what's expected and how their appearance comes across. And you want to help them see that because you want to give them every advantage they can conjure up to be successful. Hope that's helpful for you, and I hope you have a great week.